Welcome back, everyone. Jaybone here for Smash This Podcast's offshoot show, all about music, the jacked up jukebox. We're going to talk some Ratt. We're going to talk some Motley Crue. A lot of little nuggets of news there and anniversaries and such. We're also going to review Electric Mob's debut that just dropped a couple days ago, Discharge. Let's do this. All right. Jaybone back here. You know what? I love the classics and I love my favorites, but let's kick this one off with the review, okay? I've listened to this release probably 3 times in the last 24 to 48 hours. Let me tell you, this is one of the most promising bands that I've heard in years. And I don't say that much. I mean, stuff catches my eye once in a while. And I get excited about bands coming back and putting stuff out. But I have not seen a band like this just bust out onto the music scene with this kind of punch and delivery and the vocals. I mean, this band is not even 5 years old. Electric Mob is not even 5 years old. They came out, let's see here. Let's jump in the bio real quick. This is on their website, electricmob.com.br, because they're from Brazil. So the first line here in their bio, it says, try a mixture of 70s powerful vocals, 80s mean guitar riffs, and heavy groove from the 90s and 2000s. Now put it all together with a contemporary look. After all, rock and roll has never been dead, so why not mix up everything? Well, this is Electric Mob, and you can't describe this band any more perfectly than that. You can go to the bio and read the whole thing for yourself. The bottom line says the label classifies the band as one of rock's most exciting and promising newcomers in years, and I kind of touched on that earlier. It totally is. You go through song after song after song on this release. Now, I love my classics, okay? I love Crue, Skid Row, Guns N' Roses, Slaughter. And what's great is, Lakers, what's up, man? You hear so much classic hard rock, heavy metal influence all throughout this release, except it's got a modern twist on it. And the singer on this, oh my goodness, he was on The Voice down in Brazil. So that right there tells you you're in for something something special. Hey, Lakers, my favorite bands of all time. That's right. So yeah, let's talk about some of the tracks on here. The release is called Discharge. And track number 1 is just a short one, but right off the bat, you're in for something different, something unique. It's haunting and it's bluesy and it's just the vocalist just kind of like stretching out his vocals, because man, he takes you through such a trip on this on Discharge. He really does. Um, and one of the things that really attracted me to this band was the vocals. If you go to Electric Mob's YouTube page, you'll hear some of the most amazing covers ever from this singer. Just a few days ago, right before the release, they came out with an acoustic version of Skid Row's Quicksand Jesus. And I replied in the comments one word: goosebumps. If you love the original, like I do, like I love some classic Skid Row. Sebastian Bach back then, hands down, one of the top singers from 30 years ago. You know, and that's not even debatable. Okay. Everyone's got their favorites, but I guarantee you he's going to be on some of those favorites lists. Okay. The singer of this band hits those notes when he's going through this, and you're like, okay, he's singing this and he's doing it justice and he's putting his own spin on it. But when it gets towards the end of this song, he's not going to hit those notes that Sebastian hit. Well, guess what? I fell back in my seat when he hit those notes. When I heard it for the first time, I was like, oh my Lord. This guy absolutely deserves to be in this band, and they deserve just a crap ton of success because it's so good. So you start out with Awaken, and it's haunting and it's bluesy, and then it gets into what I believe was the first single that they came out with, The Devil You Know. And it's got a southern kind of like a stomp and bluesy, and it's heavy, and just you hear this first song, The Devil You Know, and just the rest is going to be good. This is not one of those where, oh yeah, that first single was good, but the rest of it's filler. No, you better sit down for this one because you're going to be in for a ride. Next, you've got King's Ale, which I believe was another single that they released before the release. This one straight up sounds like Sebastian Bach from about 10 years ago. It was one of his more favorite solo albums of mine, Kicking and Screaming. This one sounds like it came straight off of there, and he actually sounds like Sebastian Bach in this song. It's incredible. Got Me Running's got a classic rock jam to it. Far Off, another classic sounding track with a little bit of sleaze, a little bit of bluesy in here. Now, one of my favorite tracks is when we get halfway through this release. It's called Your Ghost, and it's acoustic, and then it builds. And if you could say that there's like a ballad on this release, this would be it. This would absolutely be the ballad on here. But it's different. It's not your typical sappy ballad. It's, you get halfway through this and you know what you're going to get by this time. It's super dark, and it's got hints of like Guns N' Roses and Scorpions. And when you hear it, you'll know exactly what I'm saying, because it opens up with whistling. And when you hear whistling on a track, and if you dig the classic stuff, if you dig Guns N' Roses, you dig the classic Scorpions, you think of Patience, you think of Winds of Change, those opening whistling sections of the song. This one is just like that, okay? Only it's theirs. But it takes you back because it's eerily reminiscent of stuff from 30 years ago. It's like the band is already has an old soul to it, you know? It's you can hear the influence there. Gypsy Touch is just a banger. 1, 2, 3 Burn, probably the heaviest track on there. It's feels like the metal song on the release. It's dark, it's heavy. Upside Down feels kind of like a modern day Guns N' Roses type of track. Just rips. Higher Than Your Heels, kind of funky, and it's got some horns in it, which is really, it's like you hear the horns, and you don't hear horns a lot in modern rock. It kind of throws you back for a second. You're like, wow, see, it's got some horns in here. It's great. Gives a whole different spin on it. Brand New Hope, great rocker. And then it ends with We Are Wrong. This couldn't have ended this release any better. Sometimes when you get to the end of the CD and you hear the last track and you're kind of, that last track wasn't too hot. You know, it feels like, because a lot of last tracks on albums you feel kind of like, all right, we got to throw something else on there to make it 10 or whatever. It's the throwaway track, but it's on there. It made the release. It's all right. This one, no. There's no filler on this, okay? They're all good in their own way. This track, We Are Wrong, it's got a cinematic feel to it. This feels like one of those tracks like you just got done watching a Tom Cruise slam bam action flick like Mission Impossible, and you're watching the credits and you're just coming down from all the whatever, and there is just this rockin' tune playing during the credits. That's what this song feels like. That's what I pictured in my head when I heard this. And then there's also keyboards in this song too, which is a different from the rest of the album. Because I didn't hear keyboards on the rest of the album. And then all of a sudden there's a pause, and the last minute is just, you hear this, like this wind, this faint wind in the background, and it's in the keyboards or piano is playing, and that's how the album ends. So you go through this whole roller coaster of rock and blues and metal and everything in between, and it brings you down at the end. This is it lets you know, this feels like, okay, this is the end of the CD, and you take a deep breath and you're just like, wow, that was amazing. I guarantee you this I guarantee you're going to fall in love with this, especially if you dig classic rock, okay? So yeah, by all means, 5 stars out of 5 stars, I'd say. Electric Mob, Discharge. I'm getting it this week. I'm absolutely buying it. I loved it. Now we're going to talk about some classic stuff. So this week, or around this week, we've got 2 releases that just turned 35. let's see. How old was Jaybone when these came out? I was 10. I was 10-ish, okay? Um, we're going to talk about Motley Crue for a minute. Theater of Pain is turning 35. And that just kind of blew my mind a little bit. I love this one. This is some of the first Crue I heard when I was growing up. You got Smoking in the Boys Room on here. You got one of the greatest ballads of all time, Home Sweet Home. Me personally, I love the deep cuts on here a little more, like Use It or Lose It, Tonight, Keep Your Eye on the Money, stuff like that. I even like the first one, City Boy Blues. I guess the only thing I could be constructively critical about this one is it always sounded like, I don't know what kind of remasters came out for this one over the years. I know some have. I'd have to see if I could find better quality ones. But I know when I first listened to this one, I felt like, I was no critic at 10 years old, but I always felt like the sound of the whole release sounded real muddy. Real muddy. It just didn't sound clean, crisp, like, Dr. Feelgood did years later. It just sounded muddy. And but it's still one of my favorites. It's still one of my go-to Motley Crue ones. It's the stuff that, this and the next one we're going to talk about is the stuff that turned me on to hard rock and heavy metal. Okay. It's the stuff that I heard and I was just drawn to it, that. And of course, in the infancy of MTV, and next couple of years later came Headbangers Ball. You love this stuff. So yeah, happy 35th birthday, Theater of Pain, Motley Crue. And of course, no tour, to back that up. Unfortunately, that'll be coming next summer. Hopefully, hopefully this doesn't go completely sideways. Hopefully we get out of this. What's next here? We're going to talk about some Ratt, Invasion of Your Privacy. Now, to be honest, as much attention as I paid to the Crue before I found this release, I gotta say this is probably, out of these two, this is my more favorite of the two. Invasion of Your Privacy, which came out just a week apart from Theater of Pain. Very interesting. Very interesting. They were both very, like if I'd have been older at the time, it'd have been very interesting to see, like, who's coming out on top of this, rock and roll fight, they were all brothers back then, but you know what I mean. Which one's going to win in the plays and the releases and the, record sales and all that stuff. Of course, Lay It Down is one of the best ones on here. One of the singles, You're in Love. Me personally, I go for the deep cuts a little more. Between the Eyes, What You Give Is What You Get, Never Use Love. Those are my favorites on here that I always go to first. Some of those deep cuts, you don't hear them too much. Once in a while, you'll hear them on, you're playing some kind of like Spotify playlist, and you'll hear it, or some kind of streaming hair metal. Like I just got turned on to Dash Radio recently, and the Sunset Strip channel is really good. They play some decent deep cuts in there. I haven't heard much bad stuff come out of there. So, and that one's free. That one's free too. So go check that out. What else? Oh yeah. Was going to talk about the main topic of this, which is the anchor in the thumbnail. Ratt is back in the charts, folks. After over 35 years. I mean, this goes back to Out of the Cellar. In the Geico commercial, because of the Geico commercial getting so much rotation on TV, Round and Round is back in the charts. That's just crazy. I can't even fathom that. I read that and I was like, oh, that's something special. I read an interview where Stephen Piercy was talking to a neighbor that he barely talks to, and she said, "Hey, I just saw you in a commercial," and that's just hilarious. That's just absolutely hilarious. And he's, last year was a rough year for him. That's been talked about a lot. We know this. But he's cleaned up. He's cleaned his act up, and he's been actually singing better live. Well, live before all this, COVID shit happened. But because the popular opinion out there for decades was he doesn't give a crap about singing live. He always does a half-assed job. Well, over the last several months, he had actually been singing significantly better, in my opinion. So yeah, having Ratt back in the charts, it's just, oh man, congrats, guys. I mean, seriously, of all things to go horribly wrong in 2020 with everything happening, and Ratt is back in the charts. It's like, hey, at least you got that right. It's crazy. So yeah, so this one's going to be short and sweet. It's super late. It's kind of like, Headbangers Ball late on a Saturday night back when I was a wee little nard. Same, only different. Only I'm bald now and I'm old and fat and well, I wasn't drinking beer back then. I am now. So yeah, I mean, crack a cold one, crank up some of this stuff that I'm talking about, and I hope you dig. Please excuse me for not paying a whole lot of attention to the comments. I will look at them later. This is one of those where I'm trying to get this series going again, and I'm trying to stay focused. I don't want to get too far off the rails. So I appreciate everyone who came in here live during this. I'm not trying to be rude and ignoring you. I'm just trying to get through this and then, call it a night. So much love to everyone and anyone else who watches this after the effect. But please, yeah, go check out some of the classics. Go check out some old Ratt, some old Motley Crue. And please, folks, give this band Electric Mob a chance. If you dig the classic Guns N' Roses Skid Row sound with a modern twist, damn, I guarantee you, you're going to love this. And tell them Jaybone sent you from the Jacked Up Jukebox. All right? So give them a follow. Give them some love. Tell them you heard it from me. And we'll see you. We'll see you next week for the next episode of the Jacked Up Jukebox. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet. Actually, I got a clue. It's one I've been dying to talk about for a while. And what do you do when there's two bands with the same name? Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit of that. So that's going to be fun. I'll give my opinion on that. Everyone has got their own favorites and opinions. It's all good, but I'm going to give mine on the next one. So stay tuned for that. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Much love. Don't forget to smash that like button, smash that sub button, and ring that bell for notifications so that you know when more of my content hits your screen. We're out of here.